The power of absorbing your environment question. While riding the subway, I noticed that wherever people go, whether on the subway or the bus, they are always using their smartphones, searching for information, using digital coupons, and listening to music. Suddenly, I recalled something my teacher once said: when you take the bus, you should study the bus. You shouldn't be reading a book while riding it. As I was listening to something on my smartphone, I started wondering, am I truly absorbing my environment properly? This question made me want to ask my teacher for guidance. Could you please share your thoughts on this? Answer. Let's reflect on this. When we were students, we weren't always driven to school in a private car. Instead, we had to take the bus, and that was real learning. There are things you need to observe while riding the bus, not just the people inside, but also everything outside the window. All these sights are benefits given to you. How well you absorb and organize what you see each day determines how it transforms into energy for you. Your eyes consume energy. Eyes and ears are channels through which energy enters. You don't just see something and move on, you perceive and internalize it. Likewise, listening isn't just about hearing words, it's about absorbing and processing them. This is all a form of receiving energy. So, if you find yourself using public transportation, remember that everything happening around you is an opportunity for learning. That's why you are in that situation. For example, when someone's health declines, they may be advised to exercise by walking more. But why did their health deteriorate? It's not simply because their muscles weakened, it's because they spent too much time riding in cars without absorbing the world around them. They merely passed through places without truly engaging with them. If they had absorbed even a little of their surroundings, their health might not have suffered as much. When you are placed in an environment, there is always a reason. The divine guides us to certain situations and places for a purpose, even if we don't realize it. Had we been aware of this principle, even if we missed out on much, we could have at least retained 30% of our experiences. That alone is a tremendous amount. For instance, Einstein reportedly used less than 3% of his potential. Imagine how much greater his abilities could have been if he had actively learned from the people and environment around him. Returning to the topic, when doctors prescribe exercise, they do so without fully understanding the deeper purpose. If I were to prescribe something, I would say this: for 100 days, walk while absorbing everything you see in the world. Record and organize your observations every day. That would be my prescription. Even if you must walk, don't just walk, observe and absorb everything you see and hear. Make it your study. Alternatively, I would say, for 100 days, stop driving and take public transportation. During that time, absorb everything you see and hear. Organize your observations. That would be my recommendation. Using a smartphone is fine when you are alone, with nothing else around you. But if you are constantly glued to your phone while surrounded by an environment, you are essentially traveling blindfolded. If you continue this habit, life will become incredibly difficult for you. Even something as simple as observing people's appearances is valuable. If you frequently pay attention to faces, you will eventually be able to understand a person just by looking at them. Similarly, paying attention to how people walk can reveal their profession, their physical condition, and even their struggles. By listening to their speech, you can discern their emotional and physical state. Even observing someone's skin tone can indicate whether they are sick or happy. A person's entire life story is written on their face. Humans are full of sensory receptors, and absorbing information from our surroundings is part of our learning. When we are with others, we experience the environment in a shared way. When we walk alone, we experience a different environment. Both are valuable lessons that we must embrace. Once you absorb these lessons, you will no longer feel lonely. Without understanding this fundamental principle of learning, we have wasted time. The world constantly provides us with infinite information, yet we fail to collect and absorb it, simply because we don't know how. Right now, as you listen to this teaching, you should be absorbing not just my words but also my expressions, my tone, and my energy. If you do, you will leave here with a new force guiding your life. However, if you only focus on your smartphone, you may hear the words but won't internalize their meaning. How you engage with this teaching, and how you choose to absorb it, determines the power you gain from it. This is the final truth being revealed by the last practitioner of wisdom. The power of absorbing your environment. Summary. 1. Learning from your surroundings. 1. When riding public transportation, don't just focus on your phone, observe the people and environment around you. 2. Both inside and outside the bus or subway, there are lessons to learn and energy to absorb. 3. Your eyes and ears are not just passive sensors, they take in energy and information. 2. The reason for your environment. 1. Every situation you are placed in has a reason, whether it's taking the bus, walking, or encountering certain people. 2. If you don't actively observe and absorb your surroundings, you miss out on valuable learning opportunities. 3. A decline in health is not just due to lack of exercise but also due to not engaging with the world around you. 3. A different way to learn. 1. If you are prescribed exercise, don't just walk, pay attention to everything you see and hear. 2. Instead of relying on cars, use public transportation for 100 days and record what you observe. 3. This practice enhances your awareness and strengthens your ability to understand people and situations. 4. The dangers of overusing smartphones. 1. Using a smartphone in public without observing your surroundings is like traveling blindfolded. 2. You miss out on opportunities to understand people's emotions, conditions, and life stories through their facial expressions, posture, and speech. 3. Your environment provides infinite knowledge, but it's up to you to absorb it. 5. True learning and awareness. 1. Every experience in life is a chance to grow and gain wisdom. 2. Engaging with your environment helps you become more aware, healthier, and more insightful. 3. The way you interact with the world around you determines the power and knowledge you gain. By making conscious efforts to observe and absorb our surroundings, we can unlock new levels of understanding and personal growth. I wrote the story based on the above article, The Silent Observer. It was another monotonous morning in the bustling city. People hurriedly shuffled onto the subway, eyes glued to their screens, minds lost in the digital void. Among them sat a young man, Minho, clutching his phone like a lifeline. He barely noticed the people around him, his focus absorbed in the never-ending stream of information. That was, until one fateful day. Minho had always considered himself efficient, optimizing his commute time by scrolling through news, replying to emails, and listening to podcasts. He never questioned the habit until he overheard an elderly man speaking to a young girl beside him. "You must always look around, child," the old man said in a gentle yet firm voice. "Every street, every person, every wrinkle on a face tells a story." Minho, out of sheer curiosity, looked up. The girl, perhaps 12 years old, nodded eagerly. Her eyes were full of wonder as she observed the other passengers. The old man smiled. "Let me tell you a secret," he continued. "I used to be blind." Minho blinked. The man's eyes were sharp and clear. "Blind? How could that be?" "I lost my sight in my youth due to an illness," the man said, as if reading Minho's mind. "For 20 years, I lived in darkness. I learned to hear the world, its whispers, its laughter, its silent sorrows. But when I miraculously regained my vision, I realized people had become blind in a different way." Minho leaned forward, intrigued. "They see, but they don't observe," the old man said. "They walk, but they don't notice. They listen, but they don't hear. Do you know what it's like to see someone's face and know nothing about them?" Minho's fingers hesitated over his phone screen. He suddenly became aware of his surroundings, the rhythmic swaying of the subway car, the weary faces of the passengers, the small details he had never cared to notice. He made a decision. For the first time in years, he put his phone away. As days passed, Minho began to change. He started watching people, not in a judgmental way, but with curiosity. He noticed the old woman who always carried a single white lily, placing it on an empty seat as if saving it for someone. He saw the tired office worker who massaged his temples, struggling to stay awake, his tie always slightly crooked. He observed a young mother, whispering stories to her baby as she gently rocked the stroller. One evening, as he walked home, he heard a soft sobbing sound. A teenage boy sat on the curb, his face buried in his hands. Minho hesitated. The old Minho would have walked past without a second thought. But now, he crouched beside the boy. "Hey," he said gently. "Are you okay?" The boy looked up, eyes swollen from crying. I don't know what to do anymore, he admitted. They sat in silence for a moment before the boy spoke again. His father had passed away recently, and his world had crumbled. No one seemed to notice his pain, not his classmates, not his teachers, not even his busy mother. Minho listened. Really listened. For the first time, he understood the depth of human emotion. That night, he walked home feeling something new, a quiet, profound fulfillment. He had done nothing extraordinary, yet he had made a difference. Weeks turned into months. Minho's perspective on life had shifted entirely. He had learned to see, truly see, the world around him. The once blind observer had become an absorber of life. And one day, as he sat on the subway, he noticed a young woman, lost in her phone, oblivious to her surroundings. He smiled to himself and leaned forward slightly. Did you know, he began, that every street, every person, every wrinkle on a face tells a story? The woman looked up, puzzled. Minho just smiled. The cycle continued.